Okay, might have some good news with regards to Yeet Fighter. I've been working on fixing it, uh, and I think I fixed it. So I got in the code, and I'll go ahead and show what I did here in a little bit. But the problem wasn't eventually once I, got reacquainted with the variables and what was doing what. The problem wasn't so much changing how the special move was done. It ended up being getting the computer to be able to do that move as well. So once I changed the how the move was done, then the computer wouldn't do the move at all. So I'm like, great. So and it had to do with when the computer presses down. Like, so with the random movements, I can't have the computer accidentally press down very much or at all, because it will greatly affect how it does things. It would be, kind of squatting a lot and standing back up. As random numbers are filling in what can be done by the CPU, I need it to kind of have less choices than just someone being able to push any direction at any time and button combinations. And it took some careful balancing to get the program to kick your butt, okay, to get the program to fight with you as well as I ended up getting it to do, which is very difficult. It's hard. Once you learn the whirlwind kicks, make it a lot easier. Well-placed whirlwind kicks will essentially win the game for you most of the time. But there are some times when an enemy will get just a little bit too tough and really lay the beat down, and you won't be able to beat it. But also, I realized that the special moves weren't taking off as much damage as I wanted them to, so I looked over that. I also tweaked one of the songs to make it play twice as fast, and I changed the animation in the title so it's slightly faster. Just little, I guess, quality of life tweaks. Now, if anyone purchased Yeet Fighter from me, I'll happily give you the updated version for free. It plays a lot better in my opinion. I've been testing it with a Sega Genesis pad, with an analog joystick, and with the keyboard, and have had great success with all three of those methods of play. And so I'm going to go over that, show the code, show the game, and kind of give an update for Yeet Fighter. Okay, so on my work computer, I'm going to go ahead and open Visual Atari Basic. Now I've noticed that I kind of like how the text looks in Linux, but I don't like how not how Yeet Fighter specifically, but just in general how games run in Stella on Linux seems to be, I don't know if it's laggy or what, but I've noticed it looks as good. Sometimes it looks better, but it doesn't play as well as in Windows. So I use Windows for the emulation aspect. Okay, so we're in code, and I'm way back here, so hopefully, let's see, you can see here. We're getting down here into singles. That's single S and K. Okay, so when I get down to where the moves are calculated, so now you can press all the different button presses and stuff, and those change around the variables, and then they go to a place where the variables' effects are calculated and turned into moves. And there are a couple of dozen variables that are always working in this game at all times. This was not easy to do, and it's really mostly because of kind of a two-dimensional thought process that I'd had. Okay, here's stuff 0. Right here is where it starts, and this is the first grouping. And as I get down towards the bottom here, we're getting to where that move is. Now here it is. for both sides. Remember, this had to be changed for both sides for both players. Now, all of the same move patterns are used for both players for both sides, but the speed of each character and what their move does is different per character. So if you pick Dragon, his fireball is the middle point fireball. It's kind of medium speed and it's medium sized. If you pick Oni, his fireball is slower but it's larger. If you pick Master, his fireball is faster and larger. Okay, so if you pick different characters like Fairy, then her whirlwind kick actually does an arch-like pattern, and her uppercut goes forward more. Her fireball attack is a bowling ball. Okay, so everyone's moves are different, even though some of them are the same character model, just with different colors or little different bits here and there. All of their moves are different. No two characters have exactly the same moves. So in fact, their movement speeds are different too. Certain characters are faster than others. But what I mean is the same patterns. The quarter circle forward, quarter circle away. So what ended up happening is, like I said, once I got the new programming for the move done, which was right here. We'll just show the one for player 1 here. Now, the if variable 33 equals 6, that's actually the whirlwind kick, the beginning of the whirlwind kick. Okay, and so that would be quarter circle away. But then here is the fireball towards, which is quarter circle towards. What I ended up having to do was, because when I programmed this I couldn't get the computer to do those same moves, I actually went ahead and made it so both patterns do the special move. And this kind of, it was the light bulb moment, because I was like, I just can't get this to work. I didn't want to have to reprogram all of the random chances for the moves for the opponent in the game, because that's a lot of extra work to have to do. It took a lot of work to get them to fight with you in the way that they do. So I definitely didn't want to change that. And like I said, when I changed it, they wouldn't do the special move anymore. And so it just dawned on me, wait a minute, what if I just program both move sets? So now, the way the original game worked is you do a dragon uppercut, or you do the jump spinning flying kick for the opponent character, or for the girl opponent character you would do the jumping up at the top of the screen and then swooping down towards them. And so all of them have their different moves. With the army character, soldier, he does like a flip kick, much like Guile. Okay, so the way to do those was quarter circle away and then forward and the button. And they were saying, hey, we can't do this. It could be lag, could be controllers, whatever. We can't do it. It's too hard to do. So I programmed it so it is quarter circle forward and then diagonal down and forward. It's the same as the original dragon uppercut. So now people who are familiar with the dragon uppercut motion should have no problem doing it, because it's the same, essentially the same motion. The timing might be slightly different with the button press, but it's essentially the same. But also, if you had, no problem doing the move before, you could do quarter circle away and forwards in the button. And I thought this isn't, not only is it good because it allows the AI of the game, the computer programmed random motions, to do the move still, but also it makes it so if you're moving away from the character and you want to do the special move, you can do that. If you're moving away from the character, then you can still do the special move. And if you're trying to move towards them, you can do the special move. And also, if you couldn't get the special move to work by doing quarter circle away and then forwards and fire, Now you can do quarter circle towards and then diagonal down and right, or diagonal down and towards, and fire. And so now the move is essentially fixed. And that's what's going on here. The variable 43 equals 2 is the quarter circle towards. Variable 43, 6 is quarter circle away. Variable 3 is down. And then the old way, variable 43 equals 6, that means you've already pressed quarter circle away, and then you press to the right, and it makes the move work. And then this is facing from left to right with either character. And then the next one is facing from right to left, and so the controls are different. Here we go. Variable 43 equals 2 or variable 43 equals 6. And then we've got if you're pressing left and down, or I mean down and left, and this one's if you're pressing left. And this, of course, is after you have pressed down and away, quarter circle away, to do your whirlwind kick. So that beginning motion to do your whirlwind kick or the beginning motion to do the fireball, plus either diagonal down and towards or forwards, depending on which way you started with, will activate the special move. So there's now 2 different ways to activate your special move in the game, and the quarter circle towards with the diagonals is significantly easier. So people should be able to do the dragon uppercut now or any of the other special moves with the proper joystick. And I just tried it with analog. I tried it with now I have a Sega pad, 6-button Sega pad that's hooked up through my computer through a Sega controller adapter, and that's what I'm testing it with now. And I'll go ahead and show that. So before I play, I'm going to show how, or one way to, depending on what version of Stellar you're using, you can set up phosphor. My game in emulation needs to use the phosphor option. What that does is it imitates the refresh style of a cathode ray tube. My games are made to be played on real hardware on a real CRT television, and there's a good chance they will not look right, or they'll flicker, or only half of the art will be drawn if you don't activate phosphor. So it has to be on. The default setting in this one is 77. I think in the newest Stella it starts out with the default at 50. Okay, and I do have the newest Stella, and I've tried it and it's the same. So here, phosphor, yes, blend 77. Okay. Now when the little red bricks smush together, they fly together to form the word yeet. That's actually 1 frame faster. And that is so I could get the room needed to add both moves in that bank. There we go. Okay, and I'll just pick the default character. Now the hardest part after programming the new moves was getting, there we go, I have to redraw, there I did it again, I have to redraw the score, and so this time I actually changed it so that the number 1 is double thick, and but that's the only difference, and I drew the score font to have an original score font. Now that song's faster, in case you have heard the song already. And that was his special move, so he's doing his special move. Now I like doing the whirlwind kick. It's my favorite move. It's probably my favorite move in the original game too. I also like doing the rolls, which I don't have any of the rolls in this. And this has this game has made me want to do a sequel to the game one day if I can. And you know, the sequel is going to be 32K only, and it's going to use the text mini kernel so that words are done with text. Can have character bios. I'm going to try to have more characters, only use only 2 different body types, like have a girl body and a boy body on both sides, and then have different changes to make them unique, different moves and stuff to make them each unique. And definitely not using the super chip, because that makes it very difficult and expensive to produce. Like, no one wanted to produce the game because it was too costly. So as you can see, I'm doing the dragon uppercut now. And if I want, I can do it by going quarter circle away and towards, or I can go quarter circle towards and diagonal. There it was again, and again. So it's easier now. I think it's significantly easier. I am playing with a Sega 6-button pad. That's what I intended this game to be played with, is a Sega pad. And on real hardware. Now I'm not showing it on real hardware, this is an emulator, but I wouldn't be surprised if it plays even that much better on real hardware. Now part of the simplicity of the game is that your fireballs actually follow the enemy character. And that's because to program them to move on their own after they've been fired would take an extra loop in my program to make it so that one character is reflected while the fireball isn't. So it's really so that I can keep both graphics happening in the same continuous loop. And it makes it easier. Now, in the future game, I will probably attempt to make it so that the fireball keeps going off the screen even after you throw it. Oh, he got me. And so just little things I'm going to be trying to do. Now, one reason why I chose to stagger the stages so that you didn't just do every round in the same stage was so you could see the different color effects on the opponent. So when you're playing the game, you'll notice that if you're on a different stage, there, see, his color is different now. So it just adds a little extra variety to the game there to have that. Also, when you choose the west side characters, you'll only ever see certain stages. So you'll never see the military stage until you choose one of the other characters. So if I pick Soldier, and I'm fighting against the others, I may never see his helicopter stage. So, but if I pick someone from the other team, when I go to fight him, then I probably will see, there it was, his stage. He has a lunging knee move, he has the flip kick, and he has his iconic, there's his flip kick. There it is again. So yeah, I sped up one of the songs a little bit. I'm pleased with it. Now I can play this game, and I could play it before, and there is that problem, you know, inherent in programming and playtesting your own work, is that you can play it and sometimes other people can't. So I know all the ins and outs of it. You know, of course, the key is that when someone else plays your game, can they do the moves? That's what's important. So when someone says, hey, we can't do this one move, that bothers me, obviously, because you can't play my game. So, and that's how it was with Titan Axe, is I made it so that once you learn how to play it, you can play it, but it's not necessarily intuitive out the box. It probably could have been a 2-player game instead. See, that was really powerful. I did 2 of the flip kicks, and it really dropped his health fast. But yeah, I don't think the helicopter stage is in. She got me quick on that one. Is in this run. So when you pick Soldier, you don't get to see his cool helicopter. There, actually you do. I was wrong. Here it is. She got me though. I love the helicopter. So okay. Also, one of the comments I got on the video was one of my earlier Yeet Fighter release videos was from the artist who drew the artwork, like the cover for the game. It would have been what appeared if you went to purchase it from your little online store that Atari has for their modern Atari VCS system, which is still out there. I think it went on sale for Christmas, so it got cheaper. There are newer systems coming out that will also play their games, and you can download games. So this would have been a download, and hopefully they'll still consider it. The reason they didn't want it is the move was too hard. I've made the move easier to do, significantly easier. I'll go ahead and start it in versus mode. So, and I'll pick a couple of, let's see here, there we go. So, he said, when's the game coming out, right? Because he did the artwork that would have been the cover. And I imagine if somebody picked this up and said, hey, we're ready to make cartridges because this game's popular enough, people like it enough, his artwork would be what would go on the cover. And so he's getting credit too for the artwork that he does for the cover, and it looks beautiful. I haven't been able to show it to anybody because the game isn't out for publication yet through Atari or through whoever is going to put it out for sale for download for the Atari VCS, the modern online VCS system. And I said what had happened. I said, you know, that they told me they were having a hard time with the hardest special move, and so I said, okay, well I'll try to reprogram it, and so now we've got okay. Hopefully it's fixed now. And now the game, the move's not easy to do anyway, but like I said before, neither is the original Dragon Uppercut. A lot of these special moves in their original forms on their video games that this is an homage to are not easy to do. So, but this is significantly easier now. You should be able to do the move now. Let's see if I can get him to do this. There we go. Okay. Again, yeah, he's doing that now. Okay, let's do that with the keyboard. So yeah, things have been changed. Hopefully the game's easy enough for them to pick it up. If it's not, I really don't know how much more I can do to make it any easier. This is one button with 4 directions, and like I've said a handful of times now, I intended this to be a actual physical cartridge with a super chip that you put in a real Atari system and play through a CRT with a Sega Genesis pad, which are easy to get and work well with Atari games. I would say that the Sega Genesis 3-button pad with the raised thumb pad, which are better than the flat, hard-to-press thumb pads, and also the Sega Genesis 6-button pads that always have raised thumb pads, those are better for normal Atari games too. So if you want to play something that's easier on your thumb and your hands are more familiar with today in today's kind of gaming setup, I would say those are even better for normal Atari games. So if I want to play, there we go. So I'm playing this with my Sega Genesis pad, and it is significantly easier to play. At least it's easier on my hands than with your classic joystick. Sometimes those joysticks, depending on their condition and which version of it you got, are very stiff, and you find yourself, like twisting and lurching the controller just to get it to do anything. And so a modern thumb pad is considerably easier and more intuitive than the originals. Now, I've had some original Atari joysticks that were nice and perfect. Like, I have some now. Well, okay, if I sold an Atari computer or on eBay or something, I wasn't giving away my super nice, loose, broken in, comfortable joysticks. I was giving you my stock Atari, possibly stiff, that I don't plan on keeping, right? Because they're not great. And people don't care. Or maybe you're a seasoned gamer and you know that there are many differences in the controllers. Then maybe you do care. You can get a $20 replacement joystick, and but if you want a better controller all around for your Atari games, a Sega Genesis pad's going to be better no matter what. And of course, they have custom-made ones. You can build yourself a joystick with arcade micro switches. You can buy arcade micro switch joystick. You can use several different types of game pads or joysticks, as long as they have the 9-pin style, whatever it is. It's trapezoidal little angled connector is the same for all of that original stuff. In fact, if you start Sonic the Hedgehog on a Sega Genesis using a normal controller, okay, and the game is in motion, you've got Sonic going, it's not paused or anything, you can unplug the joystick, plug in an Atari joystick, and play Sonic with an Atari joystick. No problem, because all 3 buttons do the same thing, and all 4 directions do the same thing. So it's the same. Now, other joysticks are different, like the circular connectors for the PC Engine have different power, air in and out, different ground, different controls. So obviously, you can't just jam anything, regardless, adapter or not, into an Atari and have it work. And there are some issues with Sega pads and how they deal with the power on the Atari. But for the most part, Sega Genesis pads are completely safe. Also, Gemini joysticks are better, softer throw, more accurate, built-in paddles. More modern Atari joysticks are usually easier throw, they're not as stiff. So, if you want to play Yeet Fighter, okay, a better question, if you want to play Street Fighter 2, would you pick a classic stiff out-of-the-box Atari joystick? It's not going to work. You're not going to be doing quarter circles, half circles, zigzag Z patterns and stuff, charge attacks maybe, but probably not. Nothing's going to work right with that old stiff controller. Could you do it with a controller that's a little looser, with an easier throw, like one of the better Atari ones? You'd definitely have an easier time, but I did not program this game with an Atari four-directional stiff joystick in mind. I programmed it with a Sega raised thumb pad, 6-button style, or 3-button with a raised thumb pad style joystick, gamepad, with 1 button. Some people said, hey, why don't you do 2 buttons? That wouldn't have changed the sophistication of the throw for special moves. So if 1 button would be, what, punch, the other button would be kick, right? That's not going to change the fact that to do a dragon uppercut, you need to do a quarter circle towards and then like a forward diagonal to get the thing to work. That would still be that same kind of move. It's not going to change quarter circle towards and button to do a fireball. It's not going to change quarter circle away and the button to do a whirlwind kick. So I didn't want to add the second button for a couple reasons. I don't want someone to not be able to use whatever joystick gamepad thing that they do have, because some people out there might have a really super nice cherry switch arcade joystick, but it's 1 button because that's how Atari games are. Or someone that has one of the custom ones that are thumb pads, much like Nintendo pads, but there's still only 1 button because that's how Atari is. So those would work fine, but they're not Sega Genesis pads. So I didn't want to squeeze them into that one little tiny bracket where the only way to play my game is to have the 2 buttons that are available on a Sega Genesis 3-button or 6-button pad. I think that would be too limiting. But the single button works fine, and it doesn't inhibit the moves because kick is actually forward in the button. Standing still with the button is punch. There is no squatting punch attack in my game. If you squat and hit the button, you do a kick. There's no jump flip punch. If you jump and do a flip, you do a kick. And so the only change really is that you have to press towards the character and the button to do a normal kick. And it is a slightly better attack under certain conditions than a punch. So it does have a strategic reason for being there. But this is an Atari 2600. So there are no Street Fighter style games for the Atari 2600. This is the only one. The only other fighting games for the Atari 2600 are very crude. They're not very good. So, ideas that I've had based on this, what this makes me kind of want to do in the future. Maybe Karate Champ. I have an idea for making Karate Champ for the Atari 2600, and I should be able to have all of the moves and all of the gameplay and everything there for that, and not have to be so limited where, you know, I would need a relatively good 16-bit setup with lots of ROM space to have 8 unique characters and 6 buttons and all the different moves and stuff. This was an experiment in how far the Atari could be pushed to be able to get fireballs and whirlwind kicks and dragon uppercuts. I wasn't expecting to have all of the moves, and but I did consider maybe programming a Street Fighter game where it's only like Ryu versus Ken, and that's it. And then have 2 buttons, and 1 button is punch and 1 button is kick. And then try to program every single move that those 2 guys can do in the Street Fighter 2 game. But, you know, this right here I think is better because there are lots of different characters. There's a story mode where you can win at the game. The opponents are extremely difficult and skilled, and so you have to learn how to fight them. Everyone has different moves and different variations of moves and different speeds. They're all very unique. It has music, it has some animated backgrounds, some pretty cool backgrounds, I think. It's got a lot. It's got a whole lot for an Atari game. It's pretty much pushing the boundaries of what an Atari can even do. And, you know, in many ways. There are no Atari games, as far as I know, where you're doing quarter circle or half circle motions to do dragon uppercuts and whirlwind kicks and fireballs and stuff. So I think it was a success in its original form, even though I do agree that the special move is difficult to do, and I can understand that they wanted me to refine it. Now, the way it is now should be easy enough for people to do the dragon uppercut move most of the time, or much of the time when they're trying to do the move. Although, when you're fighting against the computer, it's extremely demanding. And, you know, it's going to give you a hard time. So, if they ask me to change it more, I might be able to, possibly, but I don't know. I mean, I've really put a lot into this game, and I'd really like them to accept it the way that it is. Now, I've sent the new revised version to the person who is sending it to Atari for consideration. He hasn't got back with me yet. I was really excited. I wanted to make this video. He might say, I'm not interested anymore. He might ignore me. He might say, okay, let's give it a try. He might say, I can't do the move, so it still isn't going to work. He might say a myriad of possible things. What best case scenario? He says, okay, we're actually getting the move to work now, and Atari says they want it, and maybe they'll get it out there somewhere near Christmas time, and some people will give the game a try. He might say, we're not interested. Now, part of the reason I really kind of shifted into gear and focused on repairing this game the way they wanted me to, or at least in a way that I think they wanted me to, was because of the artist who commented on the video and said, I'm the person that designed the art for the cover, and I was really hoping this would get through. And it really made me realize, you know, even though I'm the person that programmed it, I drew the art in the game, I did the animation, this is all me. I did all the songs, I did the code, I did the moves, I did the animation. The video game, I did every bit of it. But then, he is also in that boat with me going, hey, sink or swim here, are we going to actually get this out the door? And he put work into drawing the artwork for the cover, and it looks excellent. And I was, it's not for me to take his work and just, you know, throw it out there. That has to be part of the package, right? So when you go and look it up on your VCS to however you do that, I don't own one. I mean, I own the original hardware. I own a 7800, a Rainbow Junior, a Vader 4-switcher, a Sunnyvale Heavy 6er, a Sunnyvale 4-switcher, which are rare. Did I say Gemini? I own all of the original hardware varieties with which to test my games on, right? I've got the multi-carts of the Harmony cart, the Uno cart to test the games out on. I have blank PCBs with super chips ready to go on them to test them out. I have blank PCBs with EPROMs ready to create prototypes or to create cartridges for sale. So as far as the original Atari stuff, I'm ready there. But I don't own the online modern Atari VCS, so I don't have their controller to try to figure out how that's going to be. I don't have their emulation that I don't know what they're using, if it's you know, a type of laggy Stella that won't work no matter what. So I'm kind of, you know, jumping in the pool in the dark, right? Kind of wondering the depth and what's in the water, right? I don't really know how it is for them on their end with their experience with it. So when they're telling me, hey, this hardest move, the quarter circle away and then forwards and button, we can't get it to work, it's too hard, so we want you to make it easier. I'm going, well, it's not too hard for me, because it's not, but I'm the one that made it, and I'm the one trying it on all of these different things. So Now this one, the way it is now, I can actually do dragon uppercuts with an analog, which I couldn't do before. I can do them with the Sega pad. I can do them with the keyboard. It's not super easy, but I think it is easier now. And so I hope they'll consider it. And, you know, knowing that someone else is also hoping that this is successful for their own sake. You know, he did excellent artwork for the game. He did a cover that's really beautiful, and I really think it would sell the game. And I don't think that Street Fighter aficionados that are good at the game will be disappointed in this game. I think they'll be like, well, you know, maybe the moves are a little harder to do, but it works. Once they throw a fireball on an Atari, they're going to go, hey, I just threw a Hadouken fireball on an Atari 2600. Wow. Or a whirlwind kick. Hey, wow, that's very much like the real game. Or when they finally get a dragon uppercut cranked out, or a few of them, they go, hey, wow, that works really well. You know, someone that's never played a Street Fighter game before, and they're going, hey, that's a fighting game that looks really different and looks really good for my Atari. There's a pretty steep learning curve for Street Fighter games if you've never played an arcade fighting game before. So regardless of how easy I try to make the moves, even keeping it within the brackets of a Street Fighter style game or a Mortal Kombat style game, there's a little bit of a learning curve in how to get those to work. So, what do I have projected for in the future? Well, I'll show some stuff that I'm working on. Okay, this is a spaceship cockpit. Here's another one. This is just going to go back and forth. These are prototype startup demo screens for what may become a privateer-inspired space trade commerce game. Okay, and I've been working on artwork for it in my free time, and I've also considered making a privateer-style game for the Atari 2600, and you know, what inspired me here was, what do I wish was in Privateer that isn't in it? What do I not like about Privateer? And things like that. So this is just the two startup screens. This is on a Sega Genesis emulator. Okay, Kega here. But the artwork that I'm working on, I've got lots of little characters that I'm kind of chiseling out here. This is all done with what I call Base-EGA Zors, but maybe it's pronounced Base-Siega Zors. I don't know how it's, no one told me how it's pronounced. So I'm saying Base-EGA Zors because it sounds cool. Okay, maybe that's not how it's pronounced. Sure, why not? Like, I'm opening projects. It's actually in work because I've decided I'm going to put my work in its own little spot. So I came up with like a little space pod idea there, and it's a little too granular and pixelated. I'll have to make a larger version. These are prototype ships. I've worked on characters, so I've got kind of like, these are from the actors that I showed a long time ago that I turn into different characters for my games. So this might be like a futuristic space suit. Here's a normal person. Okay, that's me without my glasses on. Okay, there, another normal person. Here's a guy that's got space-style boots on and maybe a phaser sidearm weapon and a watch. Okay, he's got like an insignia that's kind of Trekky looking. Another sidearm and more spacey looking with his own boots. That's a ninja with no mask on. Okay, and that's me with my glasses on. Okay, and these are just prototype, just kind of like what can I do here, right? This is a character kind of futuristic looking outfit. Another futuristic looking outfit. Normal character. There's kind of the same colors theme and an insignia as the other guys. She's got a watch and possibly phaser sidearm kind of thing. Normal character, but she's got a red backpack going on. Okay, there's the more futuristic clothing design, something on her wrist here. Okay, and then some basic normal characters that I might redraw into different characters. Alright, then the cockpits I just showed you, this is without any of the words on it. And so what I'd do is have each section broken up. So this would be a section, this would be a section, this would be a section, the top would possibly be a section, maybe the pieces for the sides, all as sprites. And then those sprites would be lined up around the scene, and then have a background that is made up of tiles of space, stars in motion, imagery, planets or stars in motion, and then possibly a background that can be, spanned around to make it look like you're flying through space. Okay. Now this is all stuff that is, well, it would take considerably longer to complete than an Atari game. I might be able to do an Atari game in a year or two. This might take years to get anywhere with, because it's just a lot more artwork, a lot more complex artwork, a lot more animation. Now the idea was I'm going to make a Sega CD game that people can play as a ROM through their emulator, or on a actual Sega CD, real hardware. I'm going to do my own music, lots and lots of animation, and really heavy storyline with lots of text and maybe some voices and stuff. Just kind of a project. Now I'm still working on the wrestling game for the Atari. I still plan on that being completed in the near future. I had to kind of hit the brakes and back up a couple of steps to fix Yeet Fighter, to get it back out there. And so my next thing is the wrestling game. Of course, I want that to be completed, and there's no reason why I can't get that done in a matter of months. It shouldn't be too much longer to get that game done. I really am happy with Yeet Fighter now, and I hope that they'll consider it, even though the move is still kind of hard to do, but I don't think it's as hard as it was. I feel like I fixed it, but I guess we'll see. And I really hope that this guy's artwork that was going to be used for the cover, I want this game to be released. I want his artwork to be the cover. I want people to buy it for their Atari VCS and give it a try. And like I said at the beginning of the video, anyone who purchased Yeet Fighter already, and several people have, get in touch with me, and I will give you, just say, hey, I bought the game, I want the newer version of it, and I'll give you the download for free, because it has been changed, and those changes make it better. So, especially if you're having a hard time controlling some of the special moves, I'd love to get some more feedback. And a shout out to Gecko, who pointed out recently in a comment that he said he was kind of surprised they didn't want to make it, but also maybe he isn't. He said he wasn't really surprised too, because it seems to be very Capcom centric, right? Like Capcom doesn't want people to do things like that, and I understand maybe they would feel threatened if this was, something big, But I told him, I said, well, that Atari and the people that I'm working with haven't said anything specifically about any kind of copyright concerns. I also said, that a lot of homebrew is just direct copies of existing games that may or may not be copyrighted with different names. And I said that in the 90s, a different company was targeted by Capcom and actually had, they actually like threatened a lawsuit. It took them to court and everything. And they actually lost. Capcom lost because there are certain things that are inherent in Eastern mysticisms from that part of the world that Capcom doesn't own. So first time you ever saw a Spirit Fireball might have been a Capcom game, but Capcom took it from Eastern mysticism. The first time you saw a Whirlwind Kick might have been in a Capcom game, but Capcom took that from Eastern mysticism. The first time you saw a Dragon Uppercut might have been in a Capcom game, but Capcom took it from martial arts from the past, the mysticism of it. Being able to throw your spirit at somebody is not a Capcom only concept, okay? And none of the names in my game are Capcom property, and the image of a male in a gi or a female in a Konoichi outfit or a man with big tall hair and army surplus pants, none of that is owned by Capcom. So they can say, hey, this is an obvious homage to Street Fighter 2. That's true. I won't deny that Street Fighter games inspired Yeet Fighter. But my character is not Ryu from Capcom's Street Fighter game. That would be copyright infringement. None of my characters are the characters from Capcom games. And my game is unique, and it is simpler, and it is different. It has characters that are based on SNK characters and some Capcom characters. And it also has several characters that I created that are part of the game. And I do think it skates the thin ice of, IP danger, sure. But it is, I don't think that my game, I don't think it's dangerous to produce. I really don't. Now, I might be wrong. That's true. I'm not a lawyer. You know what I mean? But I don't think that it is actually, breaking any rules. It's very close. Now, of course, there are countless. How about, Princess Rescue, notoriously. It's obviously Mario, but it's not called Mario. It's not called Super Mario Brothers. It's not called Super Mario World. The girl in it's not called Princess Peach. The characters aren't called Koopas or Goombas or whatever you want to call them. But he does kind of look like Mario, yeah, and the gameplay is very much like Mario. So Nintendo said, cease and desist or we'll get nasty. And so immediately every copy of Princess Rescue became worth considerably more. Okay, so I don't want that to happen to my game, but it could happen to my game. I would not want to get in trouble for distributing my game after it was legally not, feasible to do that. But I don't think Atari would have considered my game if it was in that kind of situation. So I think they looked at it and said, yeah, it's close, but we can do it. And then they said, well, we can't play it. We want you to change this one difficult special move. And I said, okay, I'll try to do that. I tried to do it. Now it's done. And hopefully they will reconsider the game for publication for their new, modern, online Atari VCS system. So, thanks for watching. If you bought the game, contact me. I'll give you the new version for free. Hope Atari considers publishing my game. Also, on an end note, before I go, kind of a sad note, Zero Page Homebrew, who actually showed Yeet Fighter in its beginnings and gave it a try. I give them gratitude for that. It really helped me to be considered for their show. I owe them a debt of gratitude for that because they were one of the main sources for Atari Homebrew. They would always show any Atari Homebrew for 8-bit computers, 7800, 2600, 5200, some Lynx stuff and other stuff. they showcased it. They would interview programmers. You know, the whole spiel. They were an extremely good show, and they're gone now. So for whatever reason, they pulled the eject button, and they're done now. And it was, I'm sure, personal, but I don't know. You know, it's none of my business, and I don't know. And I hope everything's okay for them in their world, right, with their cats and their home and just their cool little retro cave kind of dwelling place there that they've got going on. But they're gone. And so if their videos are still up and you can see Yeet Fighter the way they showed it, that's cool and everything. But just, you know, kind of a nod and a salute to them as they're done. They're fading and gone. No more zero-page homebrew. And that's really sad because they were pretty much the best as far as showing off. They were the best as far as showing off new homebrew for the Atari systems that are out there. There are so many homebrew programmers and so many people trying to get recognition and trying to get cool games out there for people to play. So it's sad to see them go. You know, and I really hope that whatever's going on in their world, they get through it. You know what I mean? Because, you know, things happen, and I've gotten, you know, personal in some of my videos about how my life is, and you know, life is like one of those bridges in Indiana Jones, right, where it's held together with old rotten rope and little rickety slats, and you're walking across it. And then if the wind blows just right, and if you twist your weight just right, or if the floor shifts just right, then it's over. You know, and I really feel like that balancing act is always going on with me in my heart, in my mind, and in my life. It's just a balancing act. And you know, I used to say to my kids as they were growing up, my first batch of kids that are grown up now, and they're gone all the time. I miss them every day, all the time. And it just tears me apart because I love them and I never see them, and I miss them so much. I used to tell them that life is like one of those people that spins plates, right? And they've got all their plates all spinning, and they've got them up on a pole, and the plate's spinning, and it looks like a saucer. It looks like you can barely even tell that it's moving, right? And you look, and they've got like 10 plates, and they're all up on those poles, and they're all spinning, and they're wobbling. The pole's wobbling, right, but it's perfect, and the plate's really still, but it's spinning, and it's just perfect, right? And I said, and if you saw me, the way my life is, my heart and my mind and everything, those plates would be flipping and wobbling and look like they're about to just go flying in all directions. That's just how it is for me.